When the taxi pulled away and I heard her suitcase wheels knock the curb, I stood in the kitchen with a $20 bill, a 10, and a crumpled 5 in my hand, like that was a damn plan. Marina didn't even look back, just waved her sister forward and got in like she couldn't wait to get out of here. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. My name's Curtis. I'm 58. I live in Akron, Ohio. My right knee was still swollen from a scope 2 weeks earlier. Bone spurs, scar tissue, the whole mess. Stairs were slow. Grocery trips were slower. She knew that. Knew I couldn't drive either. That morning, she took both car keys off the hook and said it was for safety. Said I could order in and enjoy the quiet. She left a new debit card on the counter. Not my name on it. No PIN, no instructions. Just said it would cover anything big. Like groceries, gas, prescriptions. Except I couldn't even get to the store. And there was no gas without a car. The fridge was a joke. 2 eggs, bread ends, a half jar of olives, and a stick of margarine bent in the middle like it got tired. She knew that too. We'd been low all week. I opened the freezer. 1 frostbitten waffle and a half-empty bag of peas I'd been using as a knee pack. I told myself I've handled worse. Men say that. But I wasn't 20 anymore. I wasn't even 50. I was sitting there with a busted joint, no keys, a dead debit card, and a wife on a 26-day reset tour through Italy and Greece. The house went dead quiet. I grabbed a spiral notebook from the junk drawer and wrote "record" at the top of the first page. Under it, left alone after surgery, $35 cash, new card dead, no ride. 26 days. Then I made toast from the last 2 slices and ate it dry. Didn't even bother with butter. The silence didn't feel peaceful. It felt hollow, like she'd vacuum sealed the air before she left. I said out loud, "I'll be all right." My voice didn't sound like mine. I sat at the table while the air got stale and thought, if they say I'm independent, I'll show what that looks like, when the money's fake and the door stays shut. The next morning, I stared down at the tin of tuna like it owed me something. No can opener. So I jabbed the top with a butter knife, worked it until the metal gave. Saltines on a paper towel, black coffee from what was left in the can. That was breakfast. And probably dinner, too. Day 2. I tried Marina's card again and logged the failures in the notebook. Then I called her, twice on the work line, once on her cell. Left 1 message, nothing dramatic, just said I needed the PIN, asked her to call back. Then I texted her 8 times across the day. Short ones. Card not working. Need to activate. Call me when you can. All I got was 1 photo. Blue sea, bright sky. Caption said, "Finally breathing." Pissed me off more than if she'd said nothing. I didn't tell my son. Haven't been close since he moved to Tennessee with that girl he married quick. That kind of distance turns into habit. He'd probably ask why I didn't prepare better, why I didn't have backup plans. I didn't want to explain pride to someone who still thought life was about winning arguments. So I recorded a voice memo instead. Just me in the living room, phone propped on the armrest. Said, "Day 2, knee swollen, groceries thin, card no good." I sounded like a stranger, flat, worn out. The house creaked all night. I slept in the recliner to keep my legs straight. Told myself maybe by tomorrow I'd drive to the store, just grab a few basics. Then I remembered, no car. Both sets of keys with her in Santorini or Florence or wherever the hell they were that day. Around 1 in the morning, I opened the notebook again. Wrote, "If something happens, this is the record. Time, names, declines, photos." It felt necessary. I sat in the kitchen with my knee wrapped, window cracked just enough to hear the wind, and told myself again I'd be fine. Pride's a funny thing. It swells up louder when the world gets quieter. That night, I caught myself limping past the neighbor's window. Mrs. Lang's place, lights on, TV glow. She always kept an extra plate on the stove just in case her sister stopped by. I thought about knocking. Then I pictured her telling the church ladies or dropping off a bag of groceries with that soft, "Oh, bless your heart" tone. No thanks. I turned back, pulled the curtain, sat down, and turned the TV on just to hear someone say something. Commercials, game shows. Even that felt better than silence. I didn't sleep much. Every time I shifted, my knee barked at me. Felt like the whole joint was wrapped in gravel. But I stayed in that chair, watching shadows move across the ceiling, telling myself I could take it. This was just day 2. I'd survived 24 more. By day 4, I stopped guessing and started proving. I stood in front of the open fridge and took pictures like I was documenting a crime scene. 2 eggs on the door shelf, a bruised pear going soft on one side, mustard, ketchup, soy sauce, and a jar of pickles with cloudy juice. That was it. I snapped the shot, stepped back, took another with the light on, then one with the date showing on my phone screen in the reflection. I lined up my pill tray on the counter and took a photo of that too. One slot empty where it shouldn't be. I'd missed a dose the night before because I couldn't get to the pharmacy. No car, no ride. I wrote it down under the picture. Missed dose, no transport. I called Marina 5 more times across the afternoon. Let it ring until it went to voicemail every time. On the last one, I left a tight message, kept my voice steady. Need the pin, need the keys, call me. Then I hung up and wrote the time next to her name in the notebook. Nothing came back. I ate rice plain that night and measured it out so it would last. My knee ached in a deep, steady way that felt like pressure under the bone. I wrapped it, sat down, unwrapped it, wrapped it again. I wrote, swelling worse, no rides, $18 cash left. I thought about Mrs. Lang next door. We waved when we took the trash out, traded cookies at Christmas. She once brought over soup when Marina had the flu, and Marina acted like it was charity she didn't ask for. I pictured myself knocking, asking for a ride or a bag of groceries. The thought made my chest tighten. I didn't want to look useless. Not to her, not to myself. So I turned the TV up and let it talk at me. News, then a rerun, then an infomercial selling knives that cut through bricks. I kept the volume high so I wouldn't hear my stomach or the house settling. Later, I sat at the kitchen table and stared at the notebook. It was getting thick. Receipts, photos, times, names, evidence. I didn't set out to build a case. It just kept happening. I picked up my phone and opened the camera, propped it against a cereal box, and hit record. 40 seconds, maybe less. I didn't rehearse. I said, if you're seeing this, I was here and it wasn't fine. Then I turned the phone and showed the pantry, the empty shelf, the rice bag folded over, the single can of corn. I swung back to the fridge and opened it, held the shot long enough to count what was missing. My voice sounded rough. I felt dumb doing it, like I was performing for nobody. My hand shook when I reached to stop the recording. I almost deleted it right there. Instead, I named the file with the date and saved it. I slid the phone face down on the table, closed the notebook, and tucked everything together in the drawer. Then I stood up slow, braced on the counter, and locked the drawer. I had just sat down from putting the notebook back in the drawer when the doorbell rang. 3 short, sharp hits. Not the kind people use when they're selling something. I almost didn't get up. My knee screamed when I shifted. I limped to the door and cracked it just enough to see through. It was Mark Keller, my physical therapist from the VA clinic. He had his hands in his jacket pockets, face drawn tight. You missed 2 appointments. I was in the area, saw your porch light still on at noon. Figured I'd check in. I stepped back without saying much. Let him in. He walked into the kitchen and just stood there for a second. Didn't talk right away. Looked around, saw the rice pot in the sink, the same plate I'd been rinsing and reusing. Fridge was humming louder than normal. Who's with you during recovery? He asked. I sat down slow, both hands on the table. No one. Marina's gone 26 days. Europe trip. Took the car keys, left a dead card. Knee's not doing great. He pulled out the chair across from me and sat, arms folded. What have you been eating? I told him the truth. Saltines, rice, a can of corn. His jaw flexed. That's the only word I've got for it. Flexed. Curtis, he said, slow. This crosses a line. You know that, right? I didn't answer. He looked over at the pill tray on the counter. You missed doses? I nodded. Can't get to the pharmacy. She didn't leave cash, just $35. I've got maybe 18 left. He didn't shake his head. He didn't say, unbelievable. Just stared at me for a beat. Then said the one thing I hadn't wanted to hear. This is neglect of a dependent adult. I hated the word. Hated how it made me sound like I was helpless. Then I looked at the fridge, at the drawer with the notebook in it, at the bandage I hadn't changed in 3 days. I didn't argue. Mark leaned forward. Can I call someone? I looked at the floor. Then I nodded. Felt like I was giving up a fight I'd been pretending I was winning, but I nodded. He stepped outside to make the call. I heard him say the words, Adult Protective Services, Medical Recovery, Food Insecurity, No caregiver present. Then he came back in and asked, "What's your neighbor's name?" "Lang," I said. "Sharon Lang, house next door with the hanging flower pot." He nodded and pulled out his phone again. "We're going to get you fed first." I didn't argue with that either. While he talked to her, I opened the drawer, pulled out the notebook, flipped to a clean page, and wrote, "Mark Keller, called APS, 1:42 p.m., date, details." I underlined the time. When he hung up, he sat back down and looked straight at me. "Curtis, you don't have to prove anything. You're not failing. You've been left. That's not the same." I didn't say a word, just kept writing. Mrs. Lang showed up about 10 minutes later, still in her gardening gloves, hair pinned up. No questions, no pity. Just walked straight in like she'd been waiting for the call. Mark turned to her and said, "He hasn't had a proper meal in days." She looked at me and said, "Let's fix that." I felt heat behind my eyes. That made me madder than anything, how quick the shame showed up. I turned away like I was checking the time, but my hands were shaking. Mark put a hand on my shoulder. "They're sending a caseworker today. Probably a few hours. Don't worry about the rest. You already did the hard part, letting someone know." I didn't say thank you. That's how stiff I was. That's how wound up pride can make a man. But I reached for my pen and kept writing anyway. The doorbell rang again less than an hour later. This time, it was a single press. Clean even. Mark opened the door, and in stepped a woman with a folder tucked tight to her side. Slate gray jacket, no jewelry, flats built for walking. She introduced herself as Ms. Patel from Adult Protective Services. Her voice was calm, clipped. She didn't waste time. "Curtis," she said, sitting across from me at the table. "How many days have you been alone since your wife left?" 6, I said. "Cash on hand?" $18. "Medication schedule?" "Supposed to take 3 in the morning, 2 at night. I've missed a few." She nodded as she wrote. Not like she was judging, just logging it. She took the debit card Marina left on the counter, turned it over, checked the back. "This card isn't activated." I didn't answer, didn't need to. She snapped a photo of it with a small black phone, then moved to the fridge, took photos inside. Same with the pantry, checked dates on the 2 eggs, eyed the pill tray like she'd seen 50 just like it. Then Mrs. Lang walked in with 2 canvas bags that sagged heavy. She set them down without looking me in the eye and started unpacking. Eggs, dry pasta, bagged spinach, a can of chicken broth, bread, a jar of peanut butter. Ms. Patel asked, "You provided this?" "I did," Mrs. Lang said, "from my kitchen and a short trip down the road." She didn't act like I should be embarrassed. Didn't give me that soft voice people use when they think you're pitiful. Just moved with quiet purpose. Ms. Patel nodded once and kept writing. Then she looked up at me. "For tonight, you're not staying alone. We'll arrange a temporary placement next door, if that's okay with both of you." Mrs. Lang said, "Of course it's okay." I didn't argue. I reached for the notebook and flipped to a new page. Wrote in block letters, Fayul, gifted by neighbor, date, total. Then slid the grocery receipts behind that page, lining the edges up neat. Ms. Patel set her folder on the table, opened it flat. "Would you like to make a written statement while we're here?" I didn't think long. I said, "Yes," before my pride could find its legs. She handed me a blank form and a pen. I wrote about the card, the missing keys, the unplanned trip, the fact that I was still recovering from surgery. I didn't add fluff, just the facts. I wrote down the day she left, the day I tried the card, the days I didn't eat right, the missed meds, the times I called. At the bottom, I wrote, "I'm not looking for a fight. I'm looking not to be invisible in my own house." Ms. Patel read it and didn't blink. She slid the statement into her folder, snapped it shut, and said, "That's clear, that's strong, we'll follow up in the morning." I stood up slower than I meant to, grabbed my essentials, pill case, notebook, phone charger. As we headed next door, Mrs. Lang held the door without a word. I didn't look back, not once. Second night at Mrs. Lang's, I was sitting at her kitchen table, knee-packed, notebook open, flipping through receipts and scribbled notes when my phone lit up. Marina, her work number, not her cell. I didn't think. I just answered and hit speaker. Mrs. Lang was steeping tea. She sat across from me with a mug in each hand and didn't say a word. Marina's voice came in sharp. "Why did I get an email from Adult Protective Services? No hello, no, are you okay? Just that." I held the phone steady. Because I've been here for 6 days alone, with no working debit card, no car, no access to food or meds, post-surgery, that's why. She scoffed. Loud enough the mic clipped. You're exaggerating. You always do this. Mrs. Lang didn't flinch. She set the tea down gently and folded her hands. You left me $35 and a card I couldn't activate, I said. No PIN. I missed meds. I ate plain rice for 3 days. I called you, 10 times? No answer. Just pictures of seafood and sunsets. I thought you were resourceful, she said. You're not helpless, Curtis. You always say that. Mrs. Lang looked at me, then at the phone. Her voice was calm, but she wasn't soft. I bought him groceries because there wasn't enough food in the house. He can be resourceful and still be neglected. There was a long pause. Then Marina snapped, This was a private matter. You dragged outsiders into our marriage, and there will be consequences for that. She didn't say what kind. Just let the threat hang like it meant something. Then the line went dead. I didn't move, didn't look up, just sat with my hands flat on the table, heart thumping like I'd run stairs. Mrs. Lang pushed the tea toward me and didn't say a word. The next morning, Ms. Patel met me at the VA clinic where Mark worked. I was waiting in the lobby, halfway through filling out my PT intake form, when she stepped in with a folder under her arm and a tight expression. She sat down beside me and said, She moved their return flight. They'll be back in 2 days. My stomach dropped. She's coming back early? For what? Not for you, Ms. Patel said. To manage the situation. She used those exact words when she replied to our follow-up. She handed me a stapled packet. My statement, Mark's report, screenshots of Marina's posts, call logs, grocery receipts, and the photos of the fridge. She tapped the cover page. This isn't punishment. This is protection. I believed her, still burned a little. That night, back at Mrs. Lang's, I lined everything up on the dining table. Notebook, printed screenshots, pill tray. I went through my voice memos and gave each one a label. Day 2, Day 4. I moved the 40-second kitchen clip to its own folder and named it Evidence Fridge. Then I played it back. My voice didn't shake. The camera showed the pantry shelf, the empty fridge, the corn can, the slow turn of the camera across a kitchen with no life in it. I didn't delete it. I didn't hide it. This wasn't spite. It was clarity. I wasn't just going to be the man who held on and kept quiet. I'd done that long enough. I closed the folders, charged my phone, and leaned back in the recliner with my legs straight. Mrs. Lang had gone to bed. Her clock ticked from the hallway. The air smelled like mint tea and clean linen. Marina could call it betrayal if she wanted. She'd called everything else an overreaction. But when she walked through that door, she wasn't going to find a man waiting to apologize. She was going to find the truth printed, labeled, and backed up. I wasn't hiding it anymore. The front door opened like it always did. Quiet latch, slow swing, slight creak near the hinge. Marina stepped in first, wheeling that silver suitcase behind her like she'd just come home from a long business trip. Her sister Nadia followed, sunglasses on top of her head, phone in hand. The house smelled like dust and old coffee. They stopped short when they saw the living room. Ms. Patel and her supervisor, Mr. Alvarez, were already seated at the dining table, folders spread in front of them. Mark leaned against the kitchen counter, arms crossed. Mrs. Lang stood near the door, with her arms folded, and a look that said she wasn't going to play nice. I was at the head of the table, my notebook on the placemat, phone set beside it. Marina's smile flickered and dropped. What is all this? I didn't raise my voice, didn't let it shake. It's the truth written down so it doesn't get spun. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. Mr. Alvarez straightened the papers in front of him. His voice was professional but hard. Mrs. Dorsey, we've reviewed the report filed by Ms. Patel, as well as supporting documentation provided by Mr. Dorsey and Mr. Keller. We found that no guardianship plan was arranged during your husband's medical recovery. No accessible funds were left. No transportation, food supply was inadequate. Physical therapy was missed. Medication doses were skipped. Marina shook her head like she was hearing a wild rumor. This is a misunderstanding. Curtis is perfectly capable. He's independent. He says that all the time. Nadia jumped in, nodding. Yeah, he always liked the dramatic angle. Doesn't mean there was harm. I reached for the phone, opened the file, and hit play. The clip rolled, my voice flat and tired. If you're seeing this, I was here, not fine. Then the slow pan across the pantry, the empty shelf, The fridge with 2 eggs and a bruised pear. The hum of silence behind it. Marina's face went white. "No," she said, shaking her head. "This can't be happening." Mr. Alvarez didn't flinch. "This is not an accusation. It's a response to evidence. Based on that, we are issuing an emergency order." She straightened, tried to speak, but he kept going. "Effective immediately. No unsupervised caregiving for Marina Dorsey. Temporary removal of her medical proxy status. Financial separation initiated until a formal hearing. Supervised contact only." Nadia gasped, like someone had smacked her. "Wait, what? For this? You can't just—" He cut her off. "This isn't a courtroom. It's an emergency safety measure. If Mrs. Dorsey wishes to contest it, she may do so through proper channels." Marina looked at me, her mouth tight. "You went behind my back. You made this public. You made me look like—" I stood up. My leg was stiff, but I didn't lean on anything. "You've told me my whole life that bills don't care about excuses," I said, slow. "Well, safety doesn't either." She didn't answer, just stared at the folder like it might burn a hole through the table. Mr. Alvarez packed up the documents into a manila envelope and passed it to Ms. Patel. "We'll be following up with the court within 72 hours. Until then, please adhere to the terms. Violations will escalate the response." Mrs. Lang opened the door without being asked. Marina didn't move until Nadia gave her a nudge. Neither one looked at me on the way out. I didn't care. Mark gave me a small nod, and Ms. Patel wrote something in her folder before closing it. Nobody said congratulations. Nobody clapped. That wasn't the point. 2 weeks later, I sat in a courtroom that smelled like old paper and newer nerves. Wooden benches, weak coffee in the hallway, a clock that ticked louder than it needed to. The judge flipped through the folder without rushing. Photos of the fridge, screenshots from Marina's posts, grocery receipts, therapy notes, missed call logs, my statement, Ms. Patel's report, Mark's too. It was all there, clean and tight, nothing fancy, nothing padded, just what happened. Marina sat 2 rows up with her lawyer. She wore navy and kept her face still. She didn't look at me. She didn't go to jail. That's not how life works most of the time. No cuffs, no gasps, no slamming gavels. Just quiet consequences stacking up like bricks. The judge extended the order. Supervised visits only, required counseling, mandatory caregiving classes. No medical decisions over me. Not until the court said otherwise. When it ended, I stood, nodded once, and walked out without a glance her way. Back home, I got to work on my own damn life. Opened a small checking account down at First Federal. Just me on it. Told the teller I didn't need a rewards program or a savings tire. Just a card that worked and didn't lie. Arranged rides to physical therapy through the clinic. Mark had my schedule printed and pinned to the backroom bulletin board. I stocked the fridge myself. Eggs, potatoes, spinach, chicken thighs. Kept it simple. Bought a spice rack. Watched a video on how to make soup without it tasting like warm dishwater. Took a few tries, but I got there. Mark got me back on the bike at the clinic. Slow at first. I grimaced the whole damn session, but I finished it. Week after that, I did 2 full laps around the loop without stopping. My knee felt like mine again. So did the house. One morning, I boxed up Marina's fancy silver suitcase, the one she wheeled across our porch like she was escaping something hard. I set it near the front door. On top, I paperclipped 2 things: the official court order and a printed screenshot of her finally breathing post. Petty? Maybe. Clear? Absolutely. I didn't have to explain it. Folks who mattered already knew. My barber. The guys I sat next to at church. The neighbor who fixed my porch railing. They didn't need the whole backstory. Just looked at me a little longer, nodded a little deeper. That was enough. I didn't shout. I just stopped covering for it. I kept the notebook. Every page. I didn't burn it or toss it or wrap it in twine like it was some trauma diary. Truth doesn't need fire. It just needs to stay where you can find it. I walked my own groceries in, 1 bag at a time, took breaks on the stairs, sat each one on the counter, lined them up like a quiet win. Eggs, soup, apples. I didn't feel small doing it. I felt done asking. Marina texted that evening. A string of long messages about how she could change, how she hadn't realized the impact, how she just needed space. I didn't block her. I also didn't answer right away. I took 1 more video, not for court, not for APS, just for me. It showed a stocked fridge, the pill tray filled, the knee brace back on the shelf, a new jar of peanut butter, the front door locked from the inside. I sent Marina one photo, just one, her suitcase by the door with the court order paper clipped on top. Typed a message beneath it. "You taught me actions have consequences. I learned." She replied, "This can't be our story." I looked at the notebook, still thick, still open on the table. It was our story, because it happened. Later that night, my son called. He had heard bits from a friend, someone who saw the report, or maybe the hearing summary. We talked for 18 minutes, laughed once, made a plan to grab lunch next week. That mattered more than any speech. I'm not out for blood, I'm out for peace. The kind you get when the door isn't just closed, it's yours to open. If you ask me whether I forgive her, I'll say this: I stopped pretending. That's as close as I can get until her actions match her words. The small revenge wasn't yelling, wasn't slamming a door. It was documenting. It was not letting the story get cleaned up for anyone's comfort. Looking back, yeah, I should have asked for help sooner. I didn't. But I made one move that changed everything. I protected myself with the truth, and I kept my own house.